listening to Co-op Radio 100.5 FM and coopradio.org. It's 5 o'clock and it's METIS Matters Radio time!
Wow, guys, thank you guys for joining me on the Facebook, or not Facebook, actually, I'm not on Facebook tonight. I'm actually on YouTube. Yes, I know. What happened was, folks, I talked about something political that I felt I stood strong for, and I guess Mr. FB decided to remove me and said, nope, you've been barred for a bit. So you know what? Can't do anything about it. So I keep on going. So I have a lot of great people out there that are good friends of mine on the FBs that actually have shared with the public, let them all know that I'm actually here in YouTube. And you know what? As much as I possibly can do, and I got my other recorder going at the same time here, so I get to share this as much as possible with everyone across the land. And yeah. Yeah, Mark in the chat room. Thank you guys for being in the Facebook chat, or not Facebook. I keep on saying Facebook, YouTube chat room. Yeah, tonight we got a lot to talk about, but I want to also say too, I want to say the words are the views expressed and opinions given by me, Derrick Whiteskycloud, and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of the CFRO 100.5 FM, your cooperative radio network and its affiliates and or sponsors, because I have to share that with a lot of my listeners to let them all know what's really going on. We have a lot to talk about tonight, guys. And again, thank you guys for being part of the chat room. There's so much to see and so much to do. And yeah, if you guys have any questions you want to ask regarding anything to do with the METIS, just love to hear from you. What we're going to be talking about tonight, again, this is going to be, let's see. There has been an incident that took place back in May the 9th, of 2021, and it relates to BCIT apologizes after employee reportedly sent email offensive to the Métis Nation members. Now, before we go any further with that, before we go into any more of this, there has been a lot of things going on in our Métis community all across Canada, and everything from the east to the west coast. But yet there has not been enough, I would say, events that most Métis would be celebrating at this moment, because there are people that would actually get together, do a lot of gatherings and travel, and do a lot of campings, traditional camps, you name it, programs, celebrations, all across across Canada as well as the United States. And the thing is that what has happened now lately, there has been a bit of a delay. It's hard for me to see. This one's here. One's for long distance, one for short. And it's hard for me to say what's going on now these days, because there has been a lot of changes in the communities, and I don't know what it is, but people are dealing with. But it's almost like falling outs. So many of the Métis community are falling out. I got someone sent me an editorial regarding what one person had stated, and I guess to say, what was his name? Will Goodall from the Manitoba Métis Federation, and he had a few words to say. It was actually written in Facebook or other social network, and he basically made a statement of that no Métis or no person can identify themselves as a Métis unless they said so or he said so, and you can't. There's no way, and heck, folks, that you can do that. You can actually say that. There's no way. I mean, it's almost like saying, well, you can't be white unless I let you, or you can't be black unless I let you, or you can't be Métis or the half breed unless I let you. No, you're not my leader. Never have been my leader unless I chose you, and I didn't choose you. So, that's just the way I'm saying it. Yeah. So, anyways, I wanted to share that with you folks. There have been a lot of things going on, and let's see here. See if I can actually get the add. See if I wonder if I can add this in. Someone says to me I can do that. I can actually do a film and add the film, but I don't know where it goes. But I will say this: I'll give you guys the editorial. I got to figure out how this whole thing works. The BCIT is apologizing after one of their employees reportedly sent an email expressing opinions hurtful to the Métis Nation members. As Paul Johnson reports, the Métis Nation of BC says it received an anonymous letter last month containing the offensive email. So let's see here. I'm not seeing it as a editorial, so it'll be a video. I'm hoping it's not a commercial. First, we'll have a look here. So it's not a commercial.
Hierarchy of Aboriginal peoples.
As CEO of Métis Nation, British Columbia, welcome. Part of Daniel Fontaine's job is to educate people about the history and status of Métis people. He was surprised and disappointed to learn of the apparent views of a senior official at a major post-secondary institution.
Given the fact that they're at the head of Indigenous initiatives, I think that's the most striking thing, is that they should have known better. And they should have known that this would have been offensive to 1/3 of the entire Aboriginal population in British Columbia.
Fontaine is talking about an email that appears to have been written by BCIT's Executive Director of Indigenous Initiatives and Partnerships, Corey Wilson. In the partial copy obtained by Global News, date and recipients unknown, Wilson appears to write, quote, "Having an Indigenous ancestor or relative does not an Indigenous person make. And of particular interest to us in BC is the recent Métis declaration that they are a nation within BC. I can see jockeying for position, money, and voice for Indigenous people in BC," end quote.
I had thought that we had moved well beyond that in terms of a discussion around self-government and the rights of Métis people in British Columbia. Clearly, we have not.
Global News reached out to Corey Wilson Sunday, who told us no comment and referred us to BCIT's PR staff. They didn't respond to our questions. But a joint statement apparently set to be released by both BCIT and Métis Nation, says BCIT apologizes for the email and that it's investigated and addressed the issue internally, though it doesn't elaborate on what steps they've taken, which is something Fontaine is demanding be public, if only to assure the Métis students who attend BCIT.
When any Métis person reads the content of that email, I'm not sure they're going to feel welcome, and I'm not sure they're going to feel culturally safe in a post-secondary institution that has some of its senior staff working on the Indigenous file making those types of comments.
Paul Johnson, Global News.
Now you know. Yeah, well, let's see here. Number one, who is Corey Wilson? Let's have a quick look here, guys. I'm going to find out who she is and see who she represents. It's possible that she could be related to Jody Raybould Wilson. But let's have a look here. Corey Wilson and BCIT. So, Corey Wilson actually is the executive director of the Indigenous Initiatives and Partnerships, and the British Columbia Institute of Technology is pleased to announce that the appointment of Corey Wilson as the executive director. Let's see. Corey comes to BCIT most recently from Vancouver Community College, where she served as Director of Aboriginal Education and Community Engagement. Since 2011, Corey is the chair of the National Indigenous Education Committee of Colleges and Institutions Canada and a Global Access to Post-Secondary Education Ambassador. Corey has a law degree from UBC with over 20 years of experience in post-secondary education, community development, and legal profession. Corey's passion lies in ensuring success for Indigenous learners and other multi-barriered learners, and she has a deep commitment to education, has dedicated her working life to ensuring that underrepresented learners succeed both within learning institutions and the larger community. Corey is a member of the WEWAKai Nation, Quadra Island, and is the Muskamak, Swatinik, and Lachkituk. Both nations are part of the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation. Is also known as the Kwakwaka'wakw speaking people. So West Coast. Okay, she's of the West Coast. So she's not. I don't think she is of our connection whatsoever, period. So she's making an opinion because she's First Nations, okay, and of the West Coast Territory. So that's what it is, Quadra Island. Okay. So now you know, and yes, I mean, everyone, I've heard this before for years, folks. There has been a lot of people that are our First Nations that don't care too much about the Métis of the West Coast either. In fact, they just don't. They think that we're just people, or that's just the way it is. I'm not saying that's bad. That's just the way they chose that about us. Straight out here. So yeah, that's just the way it is. You can't judge them. And I may have met Corey years ago. So because I think I met her before. She looks familiar, someone like I actually have met. But anyways, yes. Anyways, I'm not gonna cut her down. That's her just choice and opinion. But it's possible she may be related to Jody Raybould Wilson, who actually was the assistant to the Prime Minister to Trudeau. So yeah, she looks familiar. But anyways, let it go with that. No judgment on that part. That's just a choice. But again, the Métis we are being judged no matter. Again, I mean, the thing is that it happens to all Métis people. that's why people are looking for acknowledgement. We want to be acknowledged as an Indigenous group, and some people say, no, you're not Indigenous, you're actually Métis. Well, it's still part Indigenous. You're part Indigenous blood. You have it in your blood. I remember Ken, he would argue with that. Oh my God, Ken would say, no, we're not Indigenous. No Indigenous in us. We are Métis. We are authentic. And I go like, Ken, you've got Indigenous blood. Sorry, Ken, you got Indigenous blood. No. Okay. You can't argue with the guy. That's all you can do, right? You couldn't argue with him. So you only try and do what you can do best. Yeah. Anyways, guys, we got one story to talk about. And also, let's see here. Now, there is, this is the month of May. And normally in the month of May, I would be doing, and I will say this, I would be doing an event for kids it's always around the end of May. I would be working with 700 to 800 children because I'm with the Michif Historic and Cultural Preservation Society and with the Métis Museum, and I would be teaching Métis history to the kids. And because I'm actually one of the directors, we would have a tent and teepee set up outside, which is outside here at the Surrey Arts Center, right next to, which is part of Bear Creek Park. And that's where I would be set up. And then kids would come in from all over from different schools, and they would come in 20, 30 at a time per school. And all through the whole day of Saturday and Sunday, they would come in Friday too. Sorry, take it back. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And they would come in and they would come and see me at the museum and see what artifacts and the history of who we are at Métis. And these are kids from all races. They're all wanting to learn about us. I mean, learn about no matter if it's us or First Nations. That's an ongoing thing all through the whole weekend. So it's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the school would bring the school kids in on the Friday, and then Saturday the parents would bring them in on a Saturday and a Sunday. So, and again, the place is packed, be packed full of people. So I'm going to miss that this year. So we don't have that connection. So basically it's something I would love to talk about, and I wish we can do that again. So I'm hoping that this will be better for next year. I'm sure things will begin to clarify themselves of what's going on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So see what else is there going on here too is, yes. Okay, let's clear that one up right now. And also Corey Wilson, that one there taken care of. Mr. David Chartrand of the Manitoba Métis Federation. This actually was an editorial that was done by the Winnipeg Police Cause Harm page. Which side is David Chartrand on? This is a person's opinion. Amelia Fournier and Cam Cannon, C-A-M Cannon. May the 11th, 2021. The Manitoba Métis Federation has once again backed the settler colonial state rather than listening to his own people. The Winnipeg Free Press, March the 13th, print edition contained a full page condemning the work of the Winnipeg Police Service and the Chief of Police, Danny Smith, signed off by Chartrand, claiming to be speaking on behalf of the Métis Nation. Now, the Manitoba Métis Federation posted the ad to Instagram, and the same day prompting an outcry from the Métis citizens and allies, as well as the wave of criticism on social media. A website called Mr. Métis Leaders, take it back. Dear Métis Leaders posted a statement calling for the abolition of the police. The recently formed grassroots Métis group, Red River Echoes, also came out publicly against Chartrand's endorsement of the police, declaring that the MMF statement goes against everything people have been fighting for when it comes to undoing the violence our people face at the hands of police. Rather than listening to the members of the Métis Nation, Chartrand doubled down on his statements at the first ever MMF annual general meeting, telling critics to go to hell. Whoa. He did. Did he? Oh, he did. Yeah. Telling critics go to hell. Wow. When faced with structural problems, it's easier to deflect criticism by blaming individuals than to think about where the real problem lies. The MMF president is dismissing police violence as the error of individuals rather than symptomatic of the purpose of police. Defending private property and furthering the interests of the state, this is consistent with neoliberalism, an ideology perpetuated by the settler state that overemphasizes the importance of the individual while disregarding the facts of history and systemic injustices. Contextualizing the history of policing the homelands of the Métis Nation requires an examination of the origins of policing by colonial powers, and as many are aware, today's Royal Canadian Mounted Police developed out of the Royal Northwest Mounted Police, whose mandate was to clear the plains for capitalist development, violently displacing the Indigenous peoples, including the Métis. This colonial police force was sent in to violently subjugate Métis resistance to dispossession, acting as a paramilitary force during the Northwest Resistance of 1885. During the 1919 Winnipeg General Strike, many members of the WPS went on strike in solidarity with the workers. In response, the mayor fired the entire force and replaced them with the Special Police Force, made up of ex-military vigilantes recruited by the Anti-Liberal Committee of 1,000. Throughout the 20th century, the WPS has continued a practice of racialized policing. On March the 9th, 1988, the Winnipeg Constable Robert Cross fatally shot J.J. Harper after unjustly detaining him on the sidewalk. Cross was exonerated the day after the shooting. This incident, along with the belated trial for the murder of Helen Betty Osborne, sparked the launch of Aboriginal Justice Inquiry in April 1988. Now, Chartrand claims the WPS has moved on from its troubled colonial past, stating that since the 1988 shooting of J.J. Harper, the Indigenous police relations have vastly improved. Now, evidence suggests otherwise. Now, if anything, the new millennium brought with it intensified neoliberalism, quite literally turning the state into a weapon for the capitalist class, rolling back the welfare state in favor of the discipline of the market, decimating the labor movement, and so on, and a tough on crime attitude despite declining crime rates. On November 2005, then Winnipeg Mayor Sam Katz, K-A-T-Z, launched the Operation Clean Sweep, deploying increased police presence in the inner city where the effects of colonialism, including poverty, joblessness, or most concentrated. Katz was inspired by New York City mayors at the time, none other than Rudy Giuliani, who instituted a zero-tolerance policing strategy in New York City, in USA. In May 2006, the city of Winnipeg sponsored a $260 plate dinner with Giuliani as the keynote speaker, and he reportedly told his audience that Winnipeg can get rid of its image as high crime, rundown city by first cleansing the streets of aggressive panhandlers and squeegee kids. Bolstered by Giuliani's advice, the budget for Operation Clean Sweep increased by $5.5 million. Since 2008, the WPS budget has almost doubled and now accounts for over a quarter of Winnipeg's municipal budget. To compare, the police service accounts for about 10% of the Hamilton, Ontario's budget, municipal budget, and a city of the comparable population size to Winnipeg. Edmonton, and a city with a high population than Winnipeg, spends just under 15% of its total budget on their police service. While the police budget and its, in consequence, police power has increased, police accountability hasn't. The Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba still isn't holding officers to account. Starlight tours, violent wellness checks, and on-duty cops not wearing masks during the COVID-19 pandemic are all part of the WPS's sordid past and present. In 2020 alone, the WPS killed Stuart Andrews, Jason Collins, and Elijah Hudson. No charges have been brought against any of the officers involved in these separate incidences, not even against those who murdered the unarmed 16-year-old Aisha last April. Sorry, take it back. Aisha Hudson, not Alicia, Aisha. Rather than investing in housing, employment opportunities, recreational facilities, and other strategies aimed at reducing poverty, increasing overall well-being, and preventing crime, the city continues to increase its police budget, and this will undoubtedly contribute to increased interactions between Indigenous people and WPS officers, further reproducing it and perpetuating the colonial dynamic. As such, history continues to repeat itself as Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandel, who is Métis, stated in June 2020 that the bottom line is there's not a lot of change in the city of Winnipeg. We've had 3 shootings of young Indigenous people in the last 6 months, and that's unacceptable. When the violent actions of officers are isolated from their broader institutional and historical context, it is easy to make the convenient argument that these are simply a few bad individuals who need to be weeded out. Now, this individualistic argument is the hallmark of neoliberalism, and that all problems and solutions lie within the individual. But when the actions of police officers are placed within their historical and institutional context, it becomes abundantly clear that this colonial violence is not an anomaly, but intrinsic to the institution of policing. Pro-cop, pro-settler, or both, ? Chartrand's history of gaffes suggests some underlying political attitudes that skew towards formalism, respectability politics, and also entrenched narratives around the nominal self-determination that leave settler colonialism, capitalism completely untouched. The late Métis Marxist scholar Howard Adams warned in the 1990s that the language of the self-government and even the structures developed and accepted by the state, such as the MMF, could only be a mirage of self-determination. We must be cautious. Colonialism today has become technologically perfected and immensely versatile. The metropolis can exploit effectively and rapidly its internal colonies, example, reserves and Métis colonies, writes Adams. In an assessment, self-government does not constitute any change for Aboriginal people in terms of autonomy or sovereignty. Although it may be given extensive consideration in terms of rhetoric, in the end, it is still colonialism. What matters is changing the objective conditions, those that give rise to exploitation and oppression. If they remain unchanged, Indigenous organizations with state support develop a specific comprador character. Oh, that's a hard word to think about. Meaning they pursue the interests of imperialists or colonizers rather than authentic national development and self-determination. Possessing this specific consciousness becomes a prerequisite for leadership, and that the path of leadership includes developing it. These comprador leaders do not pursue true development, but rather capitalist development compatible within the existing capitalist settler colony. This neo-colonial entanglement promises little in the way of meaningful self-determination, but offers a lot to those who wish to enter the ranks of exploiters. Given all of this, it is no surprise that the MMF president often sides with settler colonial forces like the RCMP and the WPS. That means the Winnipeg Police Department Service. Nor is it surprising that the MMF has interests in the expansion of the oil and gas industry, around which the question of the Indigenous sovereignty is most pressing, and which important contests between traditional governance structures like the hereditary chiefs of the nations of the Wet'suwet'en on one hand, and the Indian Act chiefs and councils on the other that have played out. Also notable in recent memory in the slew is a slew of statements of statements of op-eds Chartrand penned amid the upsurge in Indigenous resistance against the construction of the Coastal GasLink pipeline through Wet'suwet'en territory. For example, in February 2020, op-ed for the National Post against the backdrop of a group invasion of the RCMP into Wet'suwet'en territory against completely unarmed civilians. Chartrand raised questions about the validity of the cause of the land defenders and their allies, defending that the construction of the Coastal GasLink pipeline through Wet'suwet'en territory. Chartrand's primary concern was for development. According to his op-ed, the pipeline would bring unprecedented prosperity to people who have never seen it before. Destruction of the land, even in land of national development, which is not its settler development, is destruction of the land nevertheless. This is to say nothing of how silly it is to predicate development and prosperity on dying industry, as one can see from the last few years in Alberta. Further than more development comes more private property in need of protection. With development will likely come more RCMP presence, especially when the construction of the pipeline has been so contested. This is more colonial shenanigans dressed up as the self-determination with promises of prosperity, with the questions of what type of prosperity and for exactly whom remain unanswered. Throughout time, this was an explosion of solidarity actions across the country, including blockades of highways and acts of vandalism. In Winnipeg, the RCMP monument was painted red as if covered in blood. Once again, Chartrand took his place in the spotlight, penned a statement condemning the vandals as cowards while singing the praises of the RCMP. The perpetrators were likely young activists rightly enraged by the actions of the RCMP and the Canadian state, which included an armed raid on the healing center and pointing sniper rifles at unarmed land defenders. Now, in this case, Chartrand has taken a page out of Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smith's book. Rather than listening to the critics, Chartrand condemns them as a problem, gaslighting Indigenous people who have had negative experiences with police. Now, this language is similar to that of the op-ed by Smith, published in August 2020, when he blamed activists and the academics for eroding the relationship between police and citizens, rather than addressing the violence and abuse perpetuated by police. Now, Chartrand's full-page ad similarly completely dismisses the concerns of Indigenous activists and community members who criticize the police. Now, his statement repeatedly bread and butter police apologist narratives eloquently debunked in the grassroots Métis statement on the WPG police and the MMF. Now, these bad apple arguments completely paper over the fact that it is not individual police officers that perpetuate violence, but the institution itself. At the end of the day, even the best-natured cop remains a foot soldier of capital and settler colonialism. Chartrand responded to the criticism during a speech at the AGA, claiming that he is the legitimately elected leader of the MMF, and if the young people want to become leaders too, they need to engage with the lower level bureaucracy of the Federation. Ooh, that's a kick in the teeth. Most of the Métis people speaking out do not want to become MMF president or even leaders. They want to be heard. When the MMF claims to speak on their nation's behalf without consulting their people, as Chartrand did in this pro-cop ad, that is not a democracy. When Métis people are berated by their government to voicing their opinions, that is not a democracy. In an episode of the APTN's Face to Face, representatives from the RRE had the opportunity to address Chartrand's response, but the RRE member, Seraph Aiden Boroditsky, stated, what we want is a return to a more traditional Métis style of governance, as opposed to running our government like a corporation. And somewhat at this point, after a quarter of the century, like an oligarchy, Not only does Chartrand place the requirement of bureaucratic participation on grassroots citizens enter the institutional development is specific comprador consciousness, then we'll take you seriously. But to remember, for leadership in the MMF reportedly excessively difficult, with Chartrand holding on to his position for 24 years, about as long as the authors of this piece have been alive. Is Chartrand a legitimate president capably guiding the Métis Nation towards true self-determination, which can be nothing less than the establishment of our own democratic revolutionary states and the end of settler colonialism? He is certainly capable, and he has certainly elected, but when under one's leadership there is a demonstrable cozying up to the settler colonial state, financial investment in extractive projects, and the denunciation of grassroots activity, a more pressing question presents itself. Which side are you on? Cam Cannon is the Anishinaabe writer entering their 4th year of studies in the global political economy at the University of Manitoba, and they have specialized interests in this critique of settler colonialism and development of the colonial capitalist system. And recently they served as a news editor for the Manitoban. Their work has also appeared in the Canadian Dimension and the Passage. Amelia Fournier is the Métis writer and holds a BA in global political economy from the University of Manitoba. And she has written about labor, environmental, and justice issues in Canada, and her work has appeared in Canadian Dimension, the Manitoban, and Human Rights Hub blog. This article was published in support from the Media Co-op as part of the collaboration. Well, there you go, folks. On the media, it's called the Winnipeg Police Cause Harm. When I read this is actually Amelia Fournier and Cam Cannon, this edited. And when I read this, I want you guys have got to listen to this. This gets your attention. You know, what can I say? So yes. What's your thoughts about this, folks? I'll let you can let me know. You can always contact me, METISMattersRadio@gmail.com. Love to hear from you, and you can let me know what you think of this. If you want to find out on the page where it is placed, it's called the Winnipeg Police Cause Harm.org. That's the page, Winnipeg Police Cause Harm.org. And this is their editorial. When I read this, and I thought, it's an eye opener, it's an ear opener, you know, and you can type in the word, which side is David Chartrand on? This is their just question mark. So go for it, folks. Have a look at it. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be throwing in a couple of songs, and let's see here what else is going on. Well, we'll be right back, guys.
Honey.
Honey,
Honey!
I really wanted a coffee.
Where are you? You've been there forever.
Come on. You know what? You think you're the boss.
But I'm the boss here. Derrick will be right back after he gets my coffee.
Radio Vancouver, local and not so local music. A music show that tells you where and when you can see and hear live music. With band dates, live musical guests, and a few surprises too. Radio Vancouver, Wednesdays, 3:30 to 5. It doesn't just play music and go home, it's out there, absorbing it. Experience Vancouver on Facebook at facebook.com/Vancouver. Radio Vancouver, Wednesdays, 3:30 to 5 p.m. on Co-op Radio. It's
Vancouver Cooperative Radio is an innovative, non-profit community radio station with a mission to produce creative and engaging programming for communities whose voices are underrepresented in the mainstream media. We need your financial support to help us achieve this mission. By donating today, you will help us to continue providing access to training and equipment for over 300 volunteers who produce 140 hours of original programming in over 10 languages. Since 1975, we've celebrated the rich cultural diversity of the Greater Vancouver area through our arts, music, and spoken word programming. Please support alternative community-based radio. You can donate today by visiting coopradio.org or calling 604-684-8494. That's 604-684-8494.
Hi, I'm Gennaro Sullivan.
And I'm Woody Morrison.
Join us every Monday from 1 to 2:30 p.m.
on Inspired Whispers, a First Nations program.
We cover truth and reconciliation,
art, music, politics, current and cultural events.
Give us a call, 604-684-7561. Don't forget to join us every Monday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on When Spirit Whispers.
Tune in to Late Night with Savages every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Join your host, Eileen Jules, and her series of red-blooded radio broadcasters as we enjoy experimental spoken word performances, late-night tea parties, updates from frontline workers, and fresh poetic and musical savagery. Tune in as we decolonize the airwaves every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Late Night with Savages on Vancouver Co-op Radio.
We're back, folks. Thank you for joining me on METIS Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5FM. I'm your host, Derrick Whiteskycloud. And this is my good friend, JJ Lavallee. Some people say Lavallee. The song's called Jimmy's Breakdown. JJ doesn't live too far from me. So I love playing his music. Gives you a chair dance. Mind you, like I tell people, being on YouTube is just slightly a little bit different compared to being on your Facebook page. And the thing is that I didn't go anywhere. No, I didn't go anywhere, didn't I? I just like to play. I get to play my PSAs through to advertise. And what happens, folks? I'm still at home doing home studio work because, again, this COVID thing has really done a lot of fearful things for people. And a lot of people really have no idea what's going on in their lives. So what I do is they ask me if I can, I just told them I'm going to do my show from home. And I pre-record all my programs. So anything that Keith in chat room goes, go get your missus a coffee. You like my commercial, eh? Cool, eh? Yeah, I love it. My wife is funny. What I do is I try to get as much information as possible for everyone out there as far as our show, our program's concerned. But I really do love working with this. And then I got myself in a little bit of trouble with Facebook. They're not picking on me. Apparently, I did my research. There's well over 100,000 people that got knocked out of Facebook. And sometimes they're for 3 days, sometimes for 7 days, sometimes for 30 days, sometimes even forever. So, and what I had done, I did an editorial. I spoke up for the elders, veterans, and apparently Facebook didn't like it, what I spoke about. And they told me that I got banned for a brief time. I'm not going to say when, how long, they just told me. So they were even refusing me to even do my show on live. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to find alternatives, and I will be looking. I'll be running some of my shows on BitChute, BITCHUTE, as well as a few more. I'm looking for other locations as well to run my shows, because I'm hearing stories that I hope not, but I'm hearing stories that FB may be taken down. And because, I don't know, maybe some people are leaving the place or they had enough of it and they're packing it in. I don't know. I can't say anything about that, but I thought, well, you know what? Instead of me worrying about not doing Facebook or FB, I'm going to carry on and you can find my shows. I just have to get other people. I want to thank all my friends out there. All you guys are friends of mine that are out on Facebook or anywhere else, really. And I want to thank you for your support, that you're actually passing information out there. Let people know I'm going to be in YouTube more often. Sometimes I like to if I'm not doing Facebook, I like to combine when I'm not in the jail, so to speak. I would have both Facebook and YouTube on at the same time. And as much as I possibly can. Doing METIS Matters Radio, I mean, to me, it's a lot of fun. And so, okay, Keith, you're called Sundance 2 and BitChute. Great. You'll find me. So I'm actually I'll be starting to place some of my older shows that have been pre-recorded, and I'm placing them on BitChute. They'll be pre-recorded. I'm hoping that BitChute will start doing live shows. There's a few other ones that I'm actually working on right now that I'm looking forward to do live on their location. Can't mention them right now, but eventually in the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see me moving to different locations. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will love to see it as well. And I've always been enjoying doing METIS Matters Radio, because even when Ken Fisher was the original show host, because we've always I love talking about Métis community, or what's going on in your community. And I talked to a good friend of mine, my brother, Dale Haggerty, today. And he's going to send me some records, some Métis records that I'm going to see if I can transfer them from a record to in my computer. These are songs that you'll never ever hear anymore. And some of them are Métis music, it's a fiddle music, it's a variety of them. He said he's about 30 of them, I think, 30 plus. So now I got more work to do. So I'm going to get my record. I got to get one of those record players out. The special made record player that you can actually transfer a record into a file, a MP4 file, and then I can actually play them on the program. And again, I'm looking forward to doing all that. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I want to play more music, but there is actually I'm under the CRTC, so I am protected. And some people say, well, you have a copyright. Yes, I do exclusively have that copyright. And I also do acknowledge all the. I don't make no money on this. I do this for the musicians, all those that are in the music industry. I support them and play them as much as I possibly can to get them well known out there. Yeah, that's what I do. I try to do as much as I possibly can. So, like I tell people, it doesn't hurt to move on to new, larger, bigger, better horizons. I mean, I'm not leaving METIS Matters Radio, but I also have other radio shows that I run, and I'm moving all those up there too. So I'm going to add them all in and making everything look good. And like I said before, I try to help as much Métis community as much as possible. And I do tell people I'm not Red River, and I will not be Red River, because I was born near the Red River. I was born in Manitoba, born in the Brandon Hospital, the old Brandon Hospital. I was born there. But I do have, apparently I've been told I have La Jamondier as one of my relatives. But I'm not going to go around there going, hey, pick me. I'm not looking for that. My job is to help bring together community. That's what my radio program is about. I inform the public what's going on across the world, right? Across Canada, across the United States, and let people know what's going on. So I have another story I want to finish off with you before we call this a night, and that is a young lady by the name of Michelle Latimer, who's been well known in the I guess say filmmaking industry. She's a wonderful person to get to know, and she apparently she was attacked. I guess we'll say whoever this persons are. I won't name names. I already know who they are. But apparently they say they've accused her, saying that she's a trickster. She's a fake. Well, they really, there's a whole bunch of Indigenous people decided to attack her at the same time. And there's a lot of jealous people out there. Sorry, but it is true. There's jealousy everywhere. No matter if you're on a reserve or off reserve, there's always jealousy of someone. But apparently, I guess this person was too successful or become too successful. And I guess some people like this to make some statements, and they try to get her in trouble. So she, I'll share with the story. It says, all I can do is speak my truth. Filmmaker Michelle Latimer breaks her silence after Indigenous ancestry controversy. 5 months ago, the director of CBC's Trickster quit and saw a documentary pulled from distribution amid questions about whether she really had roots in the Kitigan Zibi Nation. She tells the Globe about what she's done since, and what she's learned. Now, after 5 months of silence, Michelle Latimer is ready to talk. This past December, the Canadian filmmaker became the center of an explosive debate about identity, representation, diversity, and opportunity. On December the 17th, CBC News published an investigation that scrutinized Ms. Latimer's Indigenous heritage, focusing on her ties to Kitigan Zibi, an Algonquin community in Western Quebec. The story, reported by Georges Barrera and Kanai Kisidir, included accusations of exploitation and appropriation by members of the Indigenous community. Now, hours before that report was published, Ms. Latimer, who in previous interviews said that she was of Algonquin, Métis, and French Canadian heritage, released an apology on Facebook, in which she admitted that she made a mistake in naming Kitigan Zibi as her family's community before doing the work to formally verify this linkage. The story quickly rippled across the country's film and television industry. Ms. Latimer resigned from CBC's Trickster, the show TV series Trickster, that she co-created and directed based on the books by Heisla and Hilsuck author Eden Robinson. The National Film Board and 90th Parallel Productions withdrew Ms. Latimer's documentary Inconvenient Indian from the distribution, including a planned Sundance Film Festival premiere. The NFB said in a statement last week that it, along with the co-producers 90th Parallel Productions and Jesse Wendt, have been engaged in ongoing dialogue with the Indigenous participants who appear on screen in order to explore an accountable path forward for the film. Now, we are currently progressing in this process, which will include the NFB Indigenous Advisory Committee before a final decision is made. Ms. Latimer served the CBC with a notice of libel. Thank you. Raising a grave concerns about the fairness and accuracy of its reporting, and the CBC canceled the planned second season of Trickster. In the same time since, Ms. Latimer commissioned a genealogical investigation from Sébastien Mellette, an associate professor in the Department of Law and Legal Studies at Carleton University, and Simone Pula, an associate professor in the College of Interdisciplinary Studies at the Royal Roads University. Now, in their 27-page preliminary report shared with the Globe and Mail, the experts in Indigenous rights and Métis history, who both worked pro bono, confirmed Ms. Latimer's Indigenous ancestry through two ancestral lines that run through her paternal and maternal grandparents. The authors note that her ancestral connections are rooted in the small historical community of Baskatong that was known for its Algonquin and Métis population, and they add that the family and oral traditions that have shaped Michelle Latimer's Algonquin Métis ancestry identity are consistent with the documented history, culture, and struggles of a larger non-status and Métis diaspora located in the Ottawa and Gatineau valleys. In an interview, Professor Mallette underlined the contentious politics surrounding Métis communities in Quebec, which are not recognized by the Métis National Council, pointing to the 2003 Powley decision by the Supreme Court of Canada, which states that self-identification, ancestral connections, and community acceptance are factors which define Métis identity for the purpose of claiming Métis rights under the Constitution. Professor Mallette says that the Miss Latimer finds herself in a difficult situation in terms of politics and treaty negotiations. Now Miss Latimer is ready to talk in a wide-ranging emotional conversation with Global last week. Ms. Latimer discussed her actions, her past, and her hopes for her future. When the CBC broke the story, you declined all interviews requests that have changed between then and now. She says, I listened to what the community and my colleagues asked me, and I interpreted that to take a step back to really investigate my heritage. To be clear, I had no reasons to question what I understood to be true of my grandfather's heritage, what he told me growing up, but what I understood that wasn't enough for some people, and they wanted verification. Part of how I did what was actually reaching out directly to the community of Kitigan Zibi, but also to the colleagues and elders and knowledge keepers. I hired a genealogist. I engaged with historians that takes time, especially in a thoughtful way. What have the past 5 months been like? She says, imagine if everything you knew about yourself to be true was called into question in a very public way. It shakes your confidence. I'm grateful that everything I knew to be true is true, and I'm able to verify that. And that deep questioning was devastating, and not in a way that's just about me. If you knew that an investigation of this sort could hurt your family, how quickly would you rush that? Question. Why did you decide to talk with me at the Globe instead of George Barra and Kayaneshi Deer at the CBC? Sometimes your decisions are led by a gut feeling. This is a sensitive discussion, and I felt like I needed to be able to trust the person I was talking to. Some of that trust was broken and called into question by how the CBC approached this story from the very beginning. The authors of the report confirmed their Indigenous identity according to their three criteria: self-identification, ancestral connections, and community acceptance, actual or potential. But the CBC story quotes Nick Ottawa, lands, membership, and estates administrator at the Kitigan Zibi Anishinabeg, who says, just claiming to be Algonquin is not enough. You have to be validated by the community, and have you spoken with and been validated by members of the Kitigan Zibi? I have spoken with members of the Kitigan Zibi community, and one of the scariest things in coming back to one's identity is feeling like, will there be acceptance? Will I be a stranger, especially because I didn't grow up in the community? But then there's a beautiful side of it. The people have reached out and helped me. I had wonderful conversation here early in this process with Nick, who said it's okay to be searching, to be reconnecting. I've come across my own family members who are kin, and Annie Smith St. George being one. Some of the clarity for me is understanding the historical connections of Basketong and community that was flooded in 1927. I knew that from my grandfather, but what I didn't fully understand was that dispersion created more of a diaspora where people could practice their culture, and their culture became the community. What I've become to understand more in this process is a lot of non-status and Métis people, that's their reality. What they're talking about is dispersed people who culture becomes the anchor of who they are, and that is accurate to my experience. Question: Do you know have acceptance and validation from the Kitigan Zibi community? She says, I want to be clear that I think part of the misunderstanding is that I did not intend to come across as an enrolled or status member of the Kitigan Zibi. And immediately, once I realized that people thought that I apologized to the community, I was simply trying to situate geography where my family comes from, which I was asked to do. And I'm a non-status Algonquin of mixed blood, Métis, French, Canadian heritage, and that's what I stand by with truth. The issue stems from August the 14th, 2020, NFB press release for Inconvenient Indian. What stats that you're of Algonquin Métis heritage, French heritage, from Kitigan, Zibi, Anishinaabe, Maniwaki, Quebec. That was the first time that you'd ever reference Kitigan Zibi. What was it added? I was asked to be very specific by producers. Inconvenient Truth Indian. Prior to that, I understand that Kitigan Zibi was once called Maniwaki Reserve, but Maniwaki is also a town and a geographical area. Around the time that my grandfather died, Maniwaki changed their name to Kitigan Zibi. The stories I heard from my grandfather were always Maniwaki, Maniwaki, Maniwaki. So I was primed to be specific about a geographical area that specified my heritage and the closest thing that could accurately reflect my Algonquin ancestry. Of non-status was the name Kitigan Zibi, but I realized that that caused harm and it was a mistake to put it in those words. Question: prior to this instance, has anyone, collaborators, producers, industry, gatekeepers, ever asked you to specify that information? Answer: it's Indigenous protocol when introducing yourself to say where you're from and who you are. I've always said I'm a non-status Métis Algonquin. I come from Maniwaki area. When I say I grew up in the Thunder Bay, people assume I'm from Fort William First Nation. I always clarify that I grew up in Thunder Bay and I didn't grow up in Maniwaki. If there were questions, they were never directed to me directly. Now, there's more to the story. We can carry on this one here next week, but I'm so happy to know that Michelle Latimer broke her silence, and now she's up forward about this, and I'm so happy about this for her because I know how she's feeling about this. Okay, I won't go any further into that, folks, but I want to thank you guys for being part of Métis Matters Radio. I'm going to leave you guys. I love you, and Kuapitani na. Take good care of each other. We'll see you guys. Talk to you guys next week. Take care, guys.